Good people. How you doing? Happy Sunday to you. And we got about 45 people that were patiently waiting. Nice to see you. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. 11:18, I made it. I said 11:15. What am I doing this week? Hi, Ben. Ben's here, and he's my trusty moderator. He's always so helpful. Thanks, Ben, for being here. This thing, the Fox Gear Rainbow. I got a video of this coming tomorrow. Should be up tomorrow. Nice reverb, 129 digital reverb with spring and church and something called road reverb, which is really cool. And then a couple of different shimmery kind of settings. But anyway, nice reverb if you're looking for a reverb pedal that's tiny with lots of options and pretty cheap for digital reverb. What else did we do this week? The Empress distortion pedal, which is pretty darn cool. I'm going to film a little video lesson on the string skipping arpeggio part in that demo, just because I thought it was kind of fun. And so I'm going to do that as well over the next few days. Just kind of real informal. Knock that one out. Why is my screen so dark? I'm going to turn it up a little bit here so I can see you guys better. Banjard said he liked the review of this exotic Super Clean. That's right. And Super Sweet. I did that as well. What's the difference between them? The main thing that I can say, and they're sitting right here, is that the Super Sweet has more gain, like another 20 dB. And that's the main difference. I'm not sure exactly if there's any other, circuit wise, any difference or anything like that. For my purposes, to be honest, that's the SP compressor. That's not the. I love these little exotic pedals, and I keep a few of them here on my desk for like the compressor, and now this one, just for they're nice to have. If say I'm doing a demo of the reverb, I put both the Super Clean and the compressor in front of the reverb pedal to just get a little bit more juice, and it sounded really cool. But anyway, so the main difference between these guys, more gain on the red one. This one's fine for most purposes for me. Has plenty of gain. I think it's 12 dB boost. So with the range of the pot from off to all the way up, usually somewhere between like all the way down and maybe 1 o'clock or something like that was enough gain for just about anything I wanted to do, whether I was boosting a dirty amp or a clean amp. With the Super Sweet, I found that I would keep the gain down more below like 9 o'clock, like off to 9 o'clock was all I wanted. So that tells me that it's just that for my particular purposes, the Super Clean was more than enough gain for me. I don't know if you'd have to ask Exotic if there's tonal differences or circuit differences beyond just more gain. I'm not sure. I looked on the website and I kind of couldn't figure that out. So, but they both sound good. I know Michael Thompson, evidently, he loves this one. He uses this all the time. So, yeah, time for more of this. I'm going to wake up a little bit. Tom's got to leave. He says, enjoy the live stream. Taking his son to see Toy Story 4. Enjoy. Sounds like a good day. Laurel's in Oceanside. What's up? Hope everything's good down there beside the ocean. And what else we got here? Brexall says, is it possible to get an HX stomp into two separate amps and keep the signal separate with each having only separate effects? I think you could do that on a regular Helix. I don't know about the HX stomp, though. I don't think so because it's just one processor. No, I'm going to go with no. Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost sure because it's just like one string of effects on the HX stomp. With the Helix has like you can do two. I'm sitting here looking at the screen on my Helix rack over here. You can do two chains of effects, and you can set the inputs so that different inputs will hit each one. So obviously, you could do it with that because you're going to be able to set up two, at least in mono, two effects chains. People do it live with, like, for instance, like a microphone, and they affect the microphone, and then they also affect, say, like an acoustic guitar. So somebody doing like a you know, a solo gig with acoustic and that kind of thing could easily do that sort of setup with two different. So I don't see why you couldn't do it with 2 amps as well. But no, not on an HX Stomp. I don't think so. I'll be bummed if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. Henrique is in the top chat. What's up, man? In the live top chat thingy. And he says, love to hear you go all metal with the Empress Heavy. Looking forward to string skipping lesson. Yeah, I'll get that done sometime over the next few days, as soon as I can. And get it out. What else we got here? Good morning from Santa Fe. And who else we got in the house? Leo's here. Any thoughts, experience with having a guitar plect? Yeah, I mean, I've done it. You know, most Sirs for a long time that come out of their factory plect. I had a guitar plect years ago. So I experienced it both before and after. It worked pretty well on that particular guitar because that guitar had a twist in the neck. It was a bird's eye neck Fender Strat, and the neck it was a real unstable neck. Things like Flame and bird's eye necks like that are not a good idea unless the necks are roasted. I don't think Sir does them unless they roast the necks. Pretty sure about that. Don't quote me on it, but essentially bird's eye and Flame is like diseased wood, and it's kind of unstable. That's why Sir's described it to me. But once again, don't quote me on that. I just remember him saying that once. But basically, when you roast a neck, it stabilizes it, and so then bird's eye and stuff is pretty stable at that point. But anyway, I had this bird's eye not roasted because this was before they ever did that Strat neck, and it had a twist in it, and you could see it. You sighted down the neck, and so I had it plecked, and then it kind of dressed into the frets, the correction for the twist, which would be something that would be really, really difficult for a person to do. But using the pleck, it could do it. But having said that, I prefer a great fret job by like somebody that's a total master at just doing frets. You know, great tech dressing frets is my favorite way to go. I just think it feels a little more, I don't know, it's just what I'm used to. I mean, back in the 80s, it was like we paid a lot of attention to frets. I remember that. I mean, when I was a teenager, I had guitars refretted and you know, with different size frets, and knew the guys that could do it really well and stuff. It was like something that we, you know, like, because I guess it was a shredder kind of era, and low frets and real easy playability were a big deal. So we used to pay a lot of attention to that kind of stuff. Yeah, which is why I came back around all these years later to big frets on my Sir signature guitars, because I was like, I had this figured out in the 80s. I knew I liked 6100 size frets, and then I sort of moved away from it and went with 6105s, which I'm still cool with. They're pretty good. Actually, on a Les Paul, a 6105 is probably my, like, that's because when you get up high on the neck, the frets get closer together, of course, and then that bit thicker fret wire, wider fret wire, I should say, it becomes like less space between the frets. It's interesting. Jakey Lee uses 6100 size frets. I think they're 6100. They're real wide though, all the way up the neck to about the 15th fret, and then he switches to a 6105 after that. So I've actually played his main guitar that is not exactly the same as what Charvel makes. They make a Jakey Lee model, but it's a 25.5 scale, and it doesn't have that feature with the frets and stuff like that. His actual guitar it's 24 3/4 scale, although it's a Strat body. So it's Gibson scale, although it's a Strat body, and it's got the narrower fret wire from the 15th fret on up. Also, you know, interesting that he uses a Duncan JB kind of hot pickup in the bridge, and then SDS1 DiMarzio single coils in the neck and the middle, which are real hot. I think they're ceramic magnets and real hot, not a typical design at all. I think they probably use a bar magnet underneath like a humbucker would underneath the pole pieces. But anyway, and it's not a typical, sounding single coil design and stuff like that on his guitar, but it works really well. With the JB, I played his guitar, and it's like these are all like really, I don't know. Once again, in the '80s, we paid a lot of attention to this stuff. That's actually a good example of like him balancing the outputs of the pickups. Like maybe never played a guitar that was single coils and a humbucker that balanced so well. They all about exactly the same volume, so he was obviously thinking about that stuff. He's a smart guy. And the fret sizes and stuff. It's just kind of an interesting. I don't know. We all got really tweaky and custom about our guitars. The downside of that was then I found it harder to switch from guitar to guitar. If I was really into a certain neck and playability and fret size, and it was set up just perfect for me, then I found it hard to go to a Les Paul. All of a sudden, that was an adjustment. Once kind of letting all that stuff go, it was like easier to switch from guitar to guitar, which, but anyway. Rented says, curious what my preference is regarding cab placement in my studio. On the floor, raised, angled. It's an interesting question. I've experimented with some different things. Also, like sort of like you could get into the size of the room it's in and the material the floor is made out of, as opposed to the walls and all that kind of stuff when you're miking cabinets. I've got this gamma thing. It's like one of those foam things that lifts the cab off the floor, and I used to put my cab on that to kind of isolate it off but here, so for a long time with the room that I had, it was a stone floor, and it wouldn't resonate anyway. So, because it was a real hard stone tile kind of floor. But I would put the cab, like my 412, on top of that and just not even really think twice about it. Cab placement in my studio. What else? On the floor, raised. I guess I raised it on one of those gamma things. Like, who made that thing? I can't remember the name of it. Same people that make like the monitor pads with foam, that you can. The whole idea is it isolates it off the floor, keeps the floor from kind of rumbling, and maybe a little quieter because it's not like coupling with the floor and stuff like that. And so I just used it and I thought it sounded good. I'll tend to, in a 412 anyway, I'll tend to mic the top speaker in the 412 as opposed to the floor, because I figure you're getting less reflection off the floor and it's probably a little truer sound. So I'll mic one of the top speakers. Right now in my other room where I do have a cab mic'd, I've got my PT15 cab in there now. It's not a perfect setup. It's not a perfect room, and it's got a carpet floor and soft walls and stuff, but I just want to get a cab set up. Eventually, we're going to build a room here that probably would have a wood or fake wood floor or something like that, and then soft walls and stuff. And that's kind of my favorite setup, is having. I was told years ago to not make the room too dead. Have a little bit of bounce, but like for an ISO kind of cabinet closet, ISO cabinet room. So I sort of believe in wood floors with just a little bit of sound reflecting maybe back into the mic or something, rather than a total dead space, if optimally, and you see a lot of studios built like that with, that sort of construction. XLR8 Wales is in the top chat. And he says, Pete, help, I am finding it really hard to complete some original material. I seem to trip over myself and just delete it. There's it's hard. Like, self-editing is tough, but don't be so hard on yourself is all I can say. If you're not feeling it one day, come back to it. Or just try and not put so much pressure on yourself, like it's a record or, I'm going to release this to the world. It has to be my magnum opus. And, that's part of the thing that I learned from doing the pedal demos. It became a lot easier to record original music when I let it go, because it was like, well, I need to finish this thing today. I've got a few hours to do it. And it's a pedal demo. It's going to go up on YouTube, and it's not going on my solo album. So I'll just, and then ironically, you come up with some of your best ideas because you've just freed yourself from, this like, oh my God, I'm going to sell it on a CD or something. It's like, you're going to have to live with it forever. It's like, if you just turn that noise off in your own head. And a great thing to do if you're stuck is listen to some other music and get some inspiration. I do that a lot, if I can't think of where a song should go, I'll just go, well, what would David Gilmour do? And I'll put on some Pink Floyd and listen to it. And within 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Like some idea. And then it can have nothing to do with the musical piece that I'm writing, but there could be like a element that I'll take from it, like a production element or the tempo or the way, the type of guitar tone or something. And I'll take it and kind of apply it to my song. Then it busts me out of the creative rut. Or could be electronic music or something that I listen to totally different. Um, I'm really into like Phineas and Billie Eilish right now. His sister, and the music that he produces and makes. I've watched a bunch of stuff with him. That's because I find him really fascinating because he's like 21 or 2 or whatever, uh, and obviously just kind of conquering the pop world at least from his little bedroom. Um, and he just uses an Apollo and really minimal gear, it looks like, and a lot of plugins and stuff probably. But he was talking about producing hip hop music or like a track like with kind of like hip hop style production, and he said that he loves when people produce music and they sound like they have no business doing it. Like he was talking about, I think it was Childish Gambino or somebody that produced a track for him that was really mainly doing film scores and stuff, and then ended up producing his music. And he said he loved it so much because it was obviously like this person never produced that kind of music before, and that's when you get some of the most interesting things. Anyway, that's what I think. Like listen to some different kind of music or something. And he compared it to like when I hate those kind of like those digital hi-hat things that we hear in pop music. But anyway, he was programming one of those into one of his songs, and he said that he loved like it felt like trying on an older brother's coat or something. Like I have no business wearing this coat, but I'm going to put it on because I think it looks cool or whatever. And I like that approach to music production. Now you could apply that to anything. You could listen to modern country production and apply it to your track, or just get some influence or inspiration from somewhere else and go, oh, I'll try that in my song. And then you'll do something that maybe doesn't sound like authentic to the style of production, but it'll be your own thing. I don't know. There's some ideas. Daniel Crow is in the top chat. He says, hey, Pete, thanks for chatting. What are the best techniques you've found for busting out of ruts with your playing, especially soloing? Well, I guess everything I was just talking about kind of could apply. But I would just learn some solos. Honestly, you could go learn some solos from some players you admire that are maybe not exactly in the style of what you do. Like learn a Slash solo if you're into Mateus Sasato, or learn a Mateus Sasato solo if you're into Slash. And I love doing that stuff, like where I'll go and down, for instance, like Mateus or Laurie or one of these great phrasers. They've got these great courses on Jam Track Central you can go buy for like $5, and there's chock full of licks in there that they show you how to play at fast and slow tempos. You couldn't be easier. And you'll get some ideas and you can apply it to your playing in ways that, all of a sudden your playing takes on some other dimension. But that would be a great way to bust out of a rut, I would think, is learn some solos, learn something. And, I used to work on a lot of like Albert Lee stuff, and I'm not a country player, but it affected for example, like I got a little bit of hybrid picking where I now kind of very naturally, many times just use these two fingers to pick things and don't even really think about it. Like I remember what was that band, the Helicasters, when they came out, and they had it was John Jorgensen, Jerry Donahue, and Will Ray. Is that his name, right? I think. Anyway, Telecaster kind of players, and country. It was crazy guitar playing in that band. Really great playing with three kind of telly dudes, and I would learn some of that stuff and attempt to hybrid pick some of that, because it was like, I don't know, just I found it really interesting. Brent Mason, and this is going back like the 90s, like learning a bunch of these guys' stuff to kind of try and apply to I guess maybe it was like after Shred and after the 80s died out and stuff, there was still this like burning country thing going on, and maybe I found that interesting for a minute, because it was like, well, there's still this guitar going on in music over here that I find fun, so I'll go listen to that and learn a few of those licks. Yeah, try and apply that to my playing, But Yeah, I would say just learn some music by people that you don't maybe somebody you don't normally listen to, and you'll get some phrasing, and then it'll come into your playing. Some different types of note choices or phrasing. Um, yeah. All right, let's see what else we got here. I'm gonna go down in the chat a little bit. I'm sorry if I missed your questions once again, but I'll do the best I can here. Robbie's got a question that I missed, I guess, because people are asking, did Pete answer your question, Robbie? Anyway, ask again, Robbie. I'll see if I can get to it here. Pete, your recent demo of the two exotic pedals was fantastic. They both sound good. I use the SP compressor and EP booster. That's Alan. Thank you, Alan. Close to being always on pedals. They really are. The little SP compressor is great. You know, this is an awesome little box. It's not like my number one favorite compressor, but it's really good. And I like it a lot, and I end up using it. I like these pedals because they're tiny and they just fit on the side of my desk here, and I can grab them if I need a quick boost or something. But that's super clean. This is a really special pedal that I think I'm going to put on my pedal board. Just a simple. I love the sound like this. If you guys have one with the two mids boosted, the high mids and the low mids, and then you just turn that sucker on. That seems to just boost it up maybe 4 dB or something, and it buffers and just does this nice thing where it just pushes the guitar forward in a great way. Yeah. Looking down here through the chat. You guys are talking about Plek. Jakey Lee replaced George Lynch as the choice for the person who ate bats, says True Tech. So did George really play, like, was George in with Ozzy for a minute or something like that? Like, and was that right after Randy passed away? Jake became the guy. I mean, for a minute it was Brad Gillis, right? And then because I saw Ozzy with Brad, I'm that old. Just missed Randy Rhoads by a few weeks. Yeah, that was a crazy time. I remember. But I've heard that George auditioned or something for Ozzy, but I don't know. I don't know what the story is. Or maybe he did it for a minute and then it didn't work out. Okay. Are the frets on your vintage Strat original? No. And actually, it was refretted with kind of small frets when I got it, and they were brand new, and I tore them out and had it refretted again, which was a little dicey, but I did it, and I'm much happier with them now. They're kind of 6105 size on my Strat. It's due for a dress, actually, that guitar, because they've been in there 10 years, and I don't think I've ever touched them. They're fairly pitted at this point. Metalhead Hippie's in the top chat. He says, should 11 to 54s only be used in down tuning, or can they be used for standard E tuning? I mean, like Josh Smith plays in standard E tuning or E flat, I think, with 13s. So whatever works, in my mind, the heavier strings, it depends on what you're doing. Like, because the only disadvantage with heavier strings is there is a sound. It depends on what you're going for. Like, if there is a sound to lighter strings and distortion. If you're using like part of Van Halen's tone is really the strings, for instance, which was 9 to 40. And he's in E flat. So it's part of the sound. It really is actually like a fairly big component to the sound. It depends on what you're doing. The heavier strings have more energy, I think, and they sound fatter, but maybe going into a dirty amp that could start to be like, might get to the point of diminishing returns, actually, like where it's not, might sound great. It might sound sludgy and cool in a way or something, or fat and cool in a way, but I don't know if it'll be as tight, that's just what I've found. But whatever feels good, to you at the end of the day, that's all that matters. If you want to play 11 to 54s in E, that's totally cool. That's not even really that heavy. Lots of people use 11s, I think. For most strings back in the day were, I don't know what, maybe somebody here can tell me, but pre the late 60s, before Slinkies came out and stuff, everything was 12s and 11s, and I think wound G strings and stuff, certainly in the 50s. So light strings only came in the late 60s, early 70s, I think. Loving your signature guitar, says Michael up in the top chat. Thank you, man. I noticed a different sound in position 3, the middle of the pickup switch, when the tone control is pulled. Yeah, well, it's going to put the bridge pickup in parallel when you do that. So it's going to be a different tone. Still humbucking, but parallel wiring. So now you've got a parallel humbucker combined with a series humbucker. Kind of a unique sound. If you like it, roll with it. But that's what's going on. Thanks for doing the top chat. Appreciate that. Okay. You talk a lot about your PT15, says Pedro. Not too much about the cab. Maybe with IRs is better to use a neutral speaker or flat PA monitor. Well, the cabinet is a traditional guitar cabinet, right? So you're not going to use that with it's a terrific cabinet. And actually I did, some of the videos, the last videos I did, for instance, on the channel 2-3 sounds, that was all the cab mic'd, as far as I remember, except I did one little clip in there with the IR so that I could compare it. But I wanted you to hear the cab as well. The cab is terrific. It's like a balancing act with the amp, because we push the revolutionary idea of the IRs and truly reactive load and all that quite a bit, because that's what makes the amp different than most other amps on the market. But it's also important to note that it is a 3-channel tube amplifier that you can plug into a speaker cabinet, and it'll sound great that way if you never even get to using the IRs. So but anyway, yeah, with the cabinet, that's not going to be a component of the IRs. You're going to plug into the cabinet, and it's going to be a traditional guitar cabinet. The IRs happen on the direct line level output that you'll send into your recorder. Although we did put this up the other day. Check this out. This is so funny. If you guys didn't see this, I love this. This was Justin at it, Sir. This was his idea. Which is hard to see, but it's Kevin Sir getting his hair blown back by the 15 and the cabinet. So we tried to say, hey, 15 watts is plenty loud. And so there you go. We're talking about the cabinet there. You can see the depth of the cabinet actually pretty well there, that it's a nice deep, it's a huge sounding little cabinet. It really sounds great. I like it a lot. I do. All right. Yeah. What else we got here? Are the frets in your vintage Strat original? No, I just answered that. Right. Okay. Moving down. You guys are talking amongst yourselves here. In the 80s, people paid more attention to frets and pickups. Most guys were not playing through huge pedal boards and stuff. That's true. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Like frets and pickups were things that they were accessories, or not frets as much, I guess, but like pickups for sure. There was pedals, but not so many. There was the rack effects SD 3000s and stuff. If anything, it moved towards racks. Those were the toys, right? Like around 85, 86, I remember all of a sudden you started seeing lots of ads for things like the 80A MP1 preamp and, things like quadraverbs and the MIDI verb and these types of effects, it was rack mount stuff. Pedals were seen as kind of cheap and, beyond like a phaser or overdrive, there wasn't anything going on with pedals that people really wanted to mess with, which was funny because it was like, things like the Memory Man and stuff obviously were a big staple, like of the Edge's rig, and then that stuff became very popular later on. We started to realize, oh, there is some really cool sounds you can get out of these pedals. But it was like, oh, if you want to sound cool and pro, you got to get a rack. It's like the vibe, it was a different time. And yeah, people like accessories and messing with things and stuff. And I remember like pickups being, God, I used to get excited when a new pickup came out, and I'd drive down to the music store and buy the Trembucker or something, put it in my guitar and hoping that all of a sudden that'd make all the stars align. I love the Jimi Hendrix image behind you, says Jim. Yeah, it's cool, right? The guy that painted that is down on Venice Beach. You can find him. He's close to Venice and Rose. If you walk south on the Venice sort of boardwalk thing, it's not a boardwalk, it's cement, but you know what I mean. Little stroll there from. It's not Venice and Rose. It's the boardwalk and Rose. Really, it's the beach and Rose Avenue, right where Rose butts into. That's where Venice sort of starts and Santa Monica ends. And you start walking south. There's just literally like 100 feet down the from Rose. There's a guy you'll see him. He'll have a bunch of paintings out on the sidewalk there, and he doesn't have an Instagram, and he doesn't have a phone number, and he doesn't have anything like that. He just paints his pictures and puts a few out every day out there on the boardwalk. And I saw it when I was down there one time, and I'm like, dude, I love that. How much for that? And he was almost like standoffish, almost like he didn't want to talk to me or didn't want to sell it. And I'm like, no, I want to buy it. Like, how much is it? And he was like, $120. I was like, sold. And he said, oh, okay, well, and then I had to my car was way, way far away. And I remember having to I left him like $40 or something for a deposit. And I said, I'll be back in an hour. And I went to the bank machine, got the rest of the cash and got my car, drove all the way back down, found a place to park for a minute and gave him the rest of the money and took it. That's how I got that thing. But if you're interested, he does all kinds of different stuff. And I love that painting. I thought it was really cool too. If you're ever stuck and you're like, what do I do? Like you guys were asking me, like if you're in a rut or whatever, you just turn around and look at Jimmy. What would Jimmy do? He looks at you and he's like, you're on the right track or not. He just tells me. Hey, Pete, any UK clinics planned for the future? This is a good time to segue into that. Let's talk about clinics for a minute because I do have some coming up. Now, the UK, as well as a bunch of other stuff in Europe, hasn't been. I'm just looking for an email right now that's going to give me some dates. Okay, the first ones I want to tell you guys about are in the States. So, and these ones have already been announced and people know about them, I think, already. But Council Bluffs, Iowa. This is close to Omaha, right? Tuesday, August 20th. Legit Music. Okay, that's the first one. 6 p.m. Be there or be square. The next one is in Austin at Austin Guitar House, and that's on the 21st. And of this month, August 21st, and that's also a 6 p.m. start time. And the next one is Friday, August 23rd, and that's going to be at Wildwood. Sorry, that's not true. I'm going to Wildwood to do something, but I'm not doing a clinic there. It's at Guitars, Etc. That's right, Longmont, Colorado. Sorry, I'm reading my list here. Yeah, I'm just making a stop over at Wildwood to do something for a minute. But the actual clinics, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Guitars, Etc. Longmont, Colorado, and that is the 23rd of this month. So there's 3 U.S. clinics coming up. Now, I'm getting ready here to do a run in Europe. And yes, there'll be some stuff in the UK. I can't announce it yet because it's not announced, but UK, Italy, France, Netherlands. What else we got? Belgium. You'll see soon. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun. Really looking forward to it, actually. So a couple months from now, that's all going to happen. Probably within a couple weeks, we'll start, announcing the dates and stuff. Anyway, at least 30 days out from you guys will know when they are. So really excited about that. So I'll be bringing the PT15, and I think that the theme for the clinic is, I think, it's going to be similar to what I've done in the past, but I'm going to call it this time around, I think, small rig or tiny rig, huge tones. And it's going to be the PT15, of course. That's going to be the main focus of the clinic. And I'm going to use the HX effects as well, the Helix, in conjunction with it. I'm going to kind of use them together for a kind of unbeatable small guitar amp and effects combo to track a song. So I'll do a bunch of different parts and track a tune with those two things working in conjunction, show how you can use them together and stuff. And from there, talk like I have in my past clinics, a little bit about mixing, a little bit about mastering, and about what you do with it once you've recorded it, how you get it out there in the world, and how that's brought me to the point where I can go on a little tour of Europe and, or go to Omaha or Austin or Colorado and do things, and how fun that is, and that you too can make that happen. You just got to sit down and do the work. If you got the tools and you got the creativity and you got the time, just put your heart into it, and the sky's the limit. Somebody's up there in the top chat. It's Vincent. Vincent, you sent me a Twitter message. I saw you were going to ask about a speaker, right? You had another question about speakers. This is a different question. What was your question on Twitter? It was about 112 speakers. One of my favorite speakers in a 112 is a. I think the Creamback H is an excellent choice for 112s, because first of all, they're relatively high power handling at about 75 watts. And 112s, you want a fairly big sound, I think, to combat the small cabinet, which can get kind of boxy and mid-rangey pretty quick. So a speaker that's got a bit more on the lows and a bit more on the top can be a good thing in a 112, I've found. I think, like in a 412, where the cabinet develops bass, the speakers all couple and the cabinet develops bass. Greenbacks are great, so speakers with mid-range. But an H style magnet, a heavier magnet is a good thing in a 112, I think. I don't know. It's just where I'm at lately. But so Vincent, you also say that you saw Queen for the first time at Madison Square Garden. Brian May was inspiring. Shortly thereafter, I found a 60th anniversary UK Vox hand-wired AC30 to have experience. I saw them at NAMM and they look just beautiful. If it's something that you can afford, and I love AC30 so much. I honestly do. It's the one amp that, beyond the Marshall style stuff, and then obviously my signature amplifiers, like, I love old plexis. I love, if I had the amps to have are a great AC30, I feel like the Fendery thing, like clean things, I can get out of my amps easily. The Sirs, the John does clean channels that are, to me, like, I don't really think like a 60s combo is going to beat a Bella, for example, when it comes to, clean, beautiful, and being able to turn it up and not have it fart out and stuff. I love some old Fenders. They're great, but it's, the distortion sounds in the modern amps, I love my, in my PT15, PT100, they're just awesome. I do love to have one old plexi style amp around, like that guy right there, is a cool thing, I think. And then an AC30 is just a special thing unto itself that you kind of need to have, I think, if you want to be really well-rounded. It's a different sound and such an awesome sound. So if you found one you like, I think they're just really great. Vincent, again, in the top chat, says, thank you. Appreciate it, man. I saw it at NAMM. I remember looking at it, and they had the kind of like open version of it, so you could see all the wiring and stuff, and they look just beautiful and really well done. They're very expensive. You could buy an old one for what they cost, I think. That's the only other thing, but it's probably money in the bank, I would say. I don't think they're going to go down in value, really. They're pretty limited. Still waiting on my PT15 in Bangkok, says Jim. Any idea when they will ship to this part of the world? I don't know, but your dealer should be able to tell you pretty easily. They should be able to liaison with the folks at SIR and get an arrival time. Sorry you're waiting on it, but hopefully it's worth it. I think you'll love it. A bunch, well, not a bunch, but out of the first run, I think 10 went to Asia. And since then, they've made a whole bunch more and probably shipped more over there. So it was something like, I don't know, I can't remember, but it was like 60 went out in the States or something, and 20 or 30 to Europe, and then like 10 to Asia out of the first run, I think. And they've been overwhelmed a little bit with the response. There's been a lot of people that sold out initially and then reordered right away. So they've had to jump on it and keep making them. It's been really successful. Guitar amps have been in a slump, for years. It's been like, just you see the electronic sales kind of like, it's been a tough thing for a lot of companies. with the advent of modeling and stuff like that. So it's like companies sort of were getting used to that, like, well, the numbers are going to be what they are, sort of thing. And it was like, yeah, I had a feeling, and John had a feeling too. It's like when this thing came out, it was going to be, this was going to be big. It's going to be like a real, for a boutique style amp that's not a mass produced kind of thing. We were like, I think it's going to do really well, and it has. It's done really, really good. So they're scrambling now, which is a good thing to build and stuff. What are your views on the Marshall Code 50? Well, I don't know. To be honest, I love I like that they did those as of Studio Vintage, the little guys. That's my thing with Marshall. It's not the modeling amps and stuff. I think they should leave that stuff to somebody else. I don't know, or maybe do it the way Fender. I don't know. Is Fender going to do well with that thing? I've talked to people that like with the new, Deluxe Reverb and Twin. I've talked to people that say yes. I have my own thoughts. I don't know. What do you guys think? The one sound modeling Fenders, the Twin and the Deluxe. You've seen those, right? They look like the originals and stuff, but they're real light and they only do the one thing. I haven't played them yet, so I should play it to know. But I just think it's a big gamble, like a one sound modeling amp. Modeling amps traditionally has been like, oh, you can get 15 different sounds or whatever, and they got built-in effects and stuff. This is just obviously reverb, tremolo. They're modeling. They're a digital version of the old ones. I don't know. Maybe. What do you guys think? Talk amongst yourselves. Alex says, thanks as always, Pete. Thank you so much. He's up there in the top chat. I appreciate that, man. Mr. K says, why are lead singers such dicks? Well, they all aren't. A lot of them are, but they all aren't. Not all of them. I don't know. It's like it takes a lot of confidence, which can bleed into ego to get up there and sing in front of people, and and then if you get any measure of success and have people singing your words back to you, I think maybe it just does a number on the psyche. I don't know, and you got to keep it in check somehow, and it can be hard. That's why I think. Okay. Moving down. Jim Carpenter says, I say make the room as dry as possible when it comes to, I assume you were talking about the recording and guitar cabs and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, unless it's really great sounding. If you get the room professionally built and you can get a little bit of a character out of the room that's cool, I think that's because you can always deaden it with carpets and gobos and stuff like that, right? There's nothing saying you can't do that. So just put a rug down and surround the thing, and all of a sudden it's a dead room. So it can be good having a little bit of, stuff going on, character. And most studio designers I've seen say that that's a hard floor, is a good way to do that with some soft walls. Yeah. Any suggestions for a good preamp to run an electric guitar to a PA just for clean sounds? Sure, the Ethos is nice. Real nice. If you just want a very simple analog style pedal, Ethos preamp, look into that thing. It sounds really good. I've got a demo of it on my channel. There's also the Character series from Tech 21. They work pretty well for that. I would think you'd be able to find one of them that sounds really good. If you want something a little bit more sophisticated, an HX Stomp will be great because you can dial up, like, say, the Lone Star Channel 1 and add a little effects, a little compression, a little bit of reverb. It's going to sound great. So I might go that route, to be honest, the HX Stomp, if you want something just real simple. And then you can get some options going on there. So there's some analog to digital options for you there. Richard says, what's up, Pete? Sorry I'm late. It's okay, man. We're all still here. Question for you. Do you feel you spend enough time on creating music? That's from Mr. Joris Dirks. Yeah. I mean, I get to, my job is to write tracks for, like, if anything, I spend more time on creating music and producing music than I do on playing, like on actually practicing, and I wish I had more time to practice actually. But it's my job in a way now to write tracks and produce music, so I get to write songs all the time, which is great. It's more, to be honest, it's more interesting to me than playing, practicing and working on the latest whatever technique. I'd rather write a song and use the guitar in a Jimmy Page sort of way to be the vehicle to deliver the song. So that's the most fun for me. And it's super fun. Like, coming up with the songs I do for tracks and stuff is just like, that's just me being a kid again and getting to create stuff and have fun. So I do at least a couple of those a week. So I'm writing, and producing at least a couple tracks a week, maybe if not three. So that's really fun. And so yeah, I think I get enough time doing that. But I could probably use some more. Then it bleeds into, of course. Then you got to edit video and all that stuff, which takes time away from when I wish I could be practicing a little bit more to get better. Tips for soloing over changes, says Rocco. Learn arpeggios. Work on arpeggios more than scales. And learn those chord tones. Because as long as you know where the chord tones are, as the changes are going by, if you can picture the chord shapes, the target notes, then it almost doesn't matter the other notes you play, because you can always approach, and it can be a outside note or whatever, but when you land on that note that's in the chord that's passing by, it's going to sound resolved. So that's the most important thing. Get a handle on the changes as they look as you're playing a melody or whatever. Does that make sense? I hope so. Good teacher can probably steer you down that road, but there's a lot of stuff on the internet and stuff that you could seek out. Okay. Have I considered doing one of my clinics as a premium live stream to reach those who haven't been able to attend one, says Pat. I could do that, I guess. That's not a bad idea. I'll think about that after I do this round of clinics. I'm going to be doing for the next 3-4 months. It's really going to be a lot about these clinics, the PT15. And then once I've done the clinic, in a ton of places, maybe I'll do a premium live stream or something like that and feel like, okay, it's because in a way I feel like it's kind of like nail in the coffin for the clinic. Because if you can watch it on the internet, why go see it? Other than to just say hi and, it's like, I love the live aspect of it. And that's why I ask people to not film in the clinics and not put it up on the internet. Because we do this shit all the time now, right? It's just like the whole thing is your whole life is like live streamed or something, and you're sharing everything all the time. It's like I want the clinic to be like, let's have it. I wanted it to be more intimate, like get together and have like a one-on-one, and we can talk, and I can say hi, and then you can see. It's like not YouTube and not Instagram and not Facebook. It's us together in a room, like session style. You're watching me actually do a session in a way. And that was the most exciting part about it. Not the, well, I guess I could put it up on a live stream and make it YouTube. It was like anti this actually, because I don't know. I think it's been really fun, like getting in the room and meeting people, and I don't know. This is great getting out to I miss it's been a slow year for me for tours and stuff like that, and so I've been doing a lot of this kind of stuff. And I miss getting out and playing in front of people actually, and so the clinics is one way. Now I'm actually doing a tour where it's going to be just a different kind of tour. It's going to be these 3 US clinics, and then it's looking like something like 11 or 12 in Europe, and then maybe more after that somewhere else. We'll see. So it's turning into like it's like really kind of a run this fall, just doing a different thing, and that's not YouTube. And not now, of course, I'll keep uploading to YouTube and keep doing my live streams and keep doing stuff, but it's just the clinic. I just like keeping it that one-on-one kind of thing. It's not one-on-one. I guess there's anywhere from 30 or 40 to there's been as many as like almost 400 people I think at these things. But anyways, let's see what else we got here. Lawrence Design is saying self-censorship can be a real problem. You tend to not let your creation grow to its full potential. Yeah, that's going back to the person that was asking about not finishing their ideas when it comes to songwriting and recording. For sure, you got to figure out how to not self. I don't even have that voice in my head anymore. Really, it's weird. It's like I don't worry about it anymore. I used to like have trouble completing things. I'll tell you one thing you can do that'll really help is and it was I mentioned Phineas earlier, and he was mentioning in one of his videos how his main thing with studios make it easy, like make it so you can get ideas going really quick. That's been very helpful for me as well. When it's something I've tried to do in this room. I mean, it was part of why I selected this desk and set it up the way that I did, and why I've got an amp switcher and the aux sitting right there. Like I can easily within 5 minutes be. It's like, oh, okay, I want to use the hedgehog with the aux, and I want to use this cab sim, and let's put some plate reverb on it and a little bit of duck. Go, and then I set it up, and then I'm there in 5 minutes, and I've got that going. And now I can just play, and it sounds like what I know it's going to sound like. It sounds, for a certain sound. Or it's like, oh, I need to do a Van Halen style thing. So I'll get my black guitar back there and let's get the Marshall going and plug it into the surreactive load and get a little bit of EQ going. And boom, I can be there really quickly. And that goes for doing drums and bass. Bass, I've got my favorite. I either use the UA B15, sometimes the GK amp. And then with the Helix rack, I've got some dirty bass presets in there and stuff too. And I can easily get a bass sound rocking in just minutes, and it's so great for you don't want to burn out, on setting things up and stuff. And that'll just, it's human nature that it'll just bum you out and stifle your creativity if it takes you, a half an hour to just get a sound set up or something like that. So shortest from point A to point B is really important. Set your studio up or your creative zone so that it fosters creativity. Martine is in the top chat and he's somewhere in Europe, and thanks, dude. I appreciate that. He didn't ask anything. He's just up there and being a stand-up guy in Europe. I appreciate it. What else we got here? Jennifer's talking about posting on Instagram, saying that's like the feeling I get with every Instagram post. It's just an Instagram post. I feel it must be brilliant. Well, yeah, and I've seen that with with kids. Like I had a little bit of that this week where I put up an Instagram post it was for the Empress pedal, the distortion pedal, and it stalled at 2,500 views, and then it didn't go any higher for like all day, and I was like, "What's going on with that?" And but it didn't really bother me. I know it's just part of the stupid algorithm or whatever, but it was like you know, it had some good momentum, and then it just stopped, and then it was something to do with like Instagram or whatever. But and then I went, oh, who cares? It doesn't matter. The main thing is the video's up on YouTube, and that's the main, the full video demo or whatever for that pedal. Letting these platforms and stuff dictate like how your mood is. Like, oh, it only got 126 likes, and this is something I see with kids. You guys that have kids probably know they'll put up a photo and then be like, my friends, only like 50 people like my picture, only like 20 people, nobody's liking my picture, like that whole thing. And then they're kind of bummed out. And then maybe they take it down and then put it up again or whatever. And I've seen people do this, and it's generally speaking, it's like younger people and stuff. And it's like, that's sad, it's like, it's who cares? It's just like you just move on to the next, and keep it going. It's like, it's just I don't know, the whole digital life thing becoming like something that can affect your daily mood and how your spin on the rest of the day, because I don't know, I don't really worry about it. You just do the stuff, throw it up, and then move on. Go outside and go to the park or something, or go to the gym, get on with your real life. I don't know. And you just keep doing it. But if you're authentic with stuff that you do and put up stuff, it just tends to take care of itself, and you just don't worry about it. I don't know how else to say it. It's not real. It's like, I mean, it's real in a sense, but it's not like consequential to your, And I guess that's how I approach these demos and stuff like that. It's like, well, I'm going to put it out and then it's going to, people are going to watch it. And yeah, it's going to live on the internet but I don't really think about them once I just do them. And then there's that. And let's move on. There's that. And it's like creativity has to, I don't know, with songwriting and stuff, it's got to flow through you and keep going on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, in a way, it must be hard to be one of those songwriters that, I mean, it's quality problems, but to have written a massive song and then have to play it over and over for the next 30 years, I get it. It's like, and then you want to do the next thing and keep it going and nobody listens. I don't know. It's like the Paul McCartney syndrome or something. Like, he's amazing because he keeps putting out new music all the time. And a lot of people just don't, but he's always he's done it his whole life. He just keeps the records coming, whether or not people seem interested. It's like, and he's done some great stuff in the last, that I guess the Chaos and Creation in the Backyard was the last one that I truly loved, which is going on 15 years ago now. But Martine in the top chat, he says, Pete, love the channel, learned a lot from you. Any tips for an aspiring guitar teacher? Well, the number one thing I'll say is that if you want to be a guitar teacher, all the action seems to be, having said what I said about one-on-one, all the action seems to be online these days. So just from a career perspective, what I would say is start thinking about developing something that you can put up as a course. Make your course, your beginner guitar course, because there's always going to be beginners starting. And there's always going to be, new folks getting into it. So make something that's slightly different, but your spin on it that you think is really valid, and get that up and out, because that ends up becoming it becomes mailbox money for you, is the long and the short of it, for forever. Because 15 years from now, it'll still be relevant as a beginner guitar course, right? And you'll still be able to, have it out there. It's like Rick Beato wrote his Beato book a long time ago, and he still sells it all the time and does really well with it, because there's always new people in that want to know the concepts. And so rather than spending all your time one-on-one booking lessons with people and giving out all it's as you teachers will know, it's got a lot of the same information that you share over and over and over again with each student. Put it in a video form and then get it, now, having said that, you can still do one-on-one lessons, of course, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. But the number one thing is develop something, be it a streaming lessons, like Tim Pierce's guitar, recording master class thing that he developed over a long period of time and has tons of lessons up there. Or it could be a simple, 1 video, 2 videos, 3 videos. Look at the different people that have developed that. And I would say that's really the smartest thing you can put the biggest amount of time into. And then beyond that, and teaching, kind of, if you can reach folks all over the world, like, why just do it locally? Like, even if it's just Skype lessons and they're one-on-one, because now you can be, teaching folks in Australia or teaching folks in Europe or whatever you want to do, via Skype. So Skype or some other platform, FaceTime or whatever. Okay. What else we got here? Questions. It helps to play with others too, says Thrash Metal and Fun Riffs, especially a drummer to write with. That is true. If you're stuck creatively, get together and jam with some people and collaborate. That's a great way that's a terrific suggestion, actually, that I didn't even touch on. Writing with other people can be a great thing, because they'll just, they've got strengths, you've got strengths, and you'll come up with, collaboration is killer. It's awesome. Moving down. In reference to basics like frets and pickup balancing, Tim Pierce just put out a video featuring Josh Smith, and he was saying the same thing regarding playing. What's that? Today, new students advance in technique so quickly that sometimes they can easily overlook basics like theme and development and pocket. Yeah, I think that's true. There's a lot of chops out there for sure, but pocket, good timing, taste, these are things that, because technique can come really fast. It's like, it doesn't seem like it when you're sitting there trying to master some crazy lick, but the reality is sit there with the metronome, play it slow enough, and make sure that you don't make sure that you're not playing above your ability to play it cleanly. And if you do that for, it might take a week, it might take 10 minutes for some licks, it might take 2 weeks for others, it might take 6 months to really master a technique, but it ain't going to take much longer than that, is what I found. I remember working when I was 16 on getting this tapping thing down. I was doing some guitar contest, and I could probably still play it now. It was like this. You guys can't hear it because I'm not plugged into it. You can't hear it properly, but if I had an amp, you'd be able to. It was 3-finger tapping that was like the Steve Lynch thing. And I had to sit there and work. I had to sit there and do that for like, I was 16 and I did it for 3 weeks. And then I could play it as fast as he could, And it's not even that hard. It's just like tapping with these 3 fingers, and then you're doing a similar pattern down 3 notes lower. I wish I could show you with an amp. I don't have anything here set up to play, but because my point is that I haven't even done it since I was a kid, and you can get it like you just put the metronome on and just practice it, and it's just a sequence. It's not really that hard. The things that are hard are timing, groove, musicality, knowing when to play something and not to play something, like all that kind of stuff. And so the technique, it explodes. And there's a lot of guys sitting there, much like me here in a room alone, playing by myself. But the difference, hopefully, with me is that I have gone out and played with drummers a lot and stuff. You want to get out there and play with other people and play in actual musical situations where you got to hold a crowd's interest in a bar or whatever, or in an arena or whatever it may be. It's not just all about, impressing in 30 seconds with the craziest shred lick or whatever. What about when you got to play in a band and actually hold down some rhythm guitar and stuff, And so that's, hopefully that doesn't, that stuff gets glossed over too much, I think, on the internet. It's just really important. But, jamming with other people, good time and all that kind of stuff, I always say, it's like, a lot of players, they get together with a drummer for the first time and they're like, they can't play in time. And it's like, all that drummer's been thinking about is time since they started playing. If you don't think about time when you sit and play with a drummer for the first time, you're going to be, it's like, you got to get used to grooving and all that good stuff. Yeah. Recording the guitar, the sound wave in my DAW is too thin. What's better, more preamp gain or more volume from the amp? That's Pedro. What's better, more preamp gain or more volume from the amp? Well, how are you recording? Are you using the PT15? I'm not sure. Maybe you were the guy that had a question earlier. It doesn't really matter if you've got the amp set up. Like, I'm not sure what you're recording, or if you're using a modeler or using my amp or what you're using, but the main thing is get the tone the way you like it. And then to just get more gain into your DAW, you can just boost line gain or use, you don't need to turn up the amp. If the amp is sounding good where it is, find another way to boost the line gain in a little bit to get it. And you don't have to be like, there's another sort of misconception that you have to record at like super hot levels in order for it to, you can be like peaking out at like -12 in your DAW on the guitar, and that's fine. And it's actually better in many ways because you don't want to have all these hot levels and you got to pull everything way down and have the faders barely open because you're pushing everything into the bus when you're tracking, and it's just too much, you know what I mean? So go ahead and you can -10 or -12 in your DAW is fine. Yeah. What else we got here? Gonna look in the chat down a little bit, move down a little bit. Yeah, Jennifer says you have to be authentic. If you're not, it's useless. Yeah, we're speaking about the Instagram or YouTube or whatever you do. Authenticity is, people can smell it a mile away if you're not authentic. And the folks that do really well are the ones that work hard on the craft and stuff, that are talented and stuff, but are also really authentic. So one of the main things is personality that I'll say with social media and YouTube, and people. it took me a long time. If you watch my first videos, I'm really stiff. Like, hi, I'm Pete Thorn, and I'm here today to talk about, it's like that's why when I screw up now and I just like blah, 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 and I do something like that, and then I move on to the next, I'm like, oh, I'm stumbling over my words. Like, just be yourself, because it's endearing. I think when people are we're not perfect creatures, and everybody makes mistakes, and it's funny and stuff when people like just a little bit of self-deprecating humor and just being yourself and being loud if you want to be loud, and being like, don't worry about being like cool or being like, unless that's what you're really going for, but whatever, like authenticity. It's why, like, Jennifer knows, like, I'll take Phil X as an example. He's authentically that guy, in person or whatever. He's a big personality, and it's a big part of why he can get out on a big stage and stuff like that, project that in front of people, because he's confident and he's funny, and he's a big personality, and it works well for his chosen job choice, and you don't want to tone that down, that's for sure, not if you're a performer. So yeah. Social media success is like trying to hit a target with a feather in the wind, says L. Scott Music. Lauren. Yeah, it can be like that. It's if you do something authentic, the main things are do something authentic and do something exceptional and do something different. Don't copy anybody else, or you got to be yourself, and come at it a little bit of a different way, than others. I always use Leo as a great from Frog Leap. He had a great concept, and he executed it on a really high level, making these great funny covers of songs, a lot of humor there, but really well recorded, really well mixed, and then he makes great videos, and he's funny. And he's like a quiet guy actually in person. He's kind of reserved, but yet he's got this extrovert side that he lets come out in the videos and stuff, and he knows how to do it, and that's why he did so well. Paul Davids, and YouTube's is a fantastic communicator. He likes making his videos look very professional and really well shot, and he puts a lot of time and effort and care into it, and he comes up with great ideas, and he talks about that in the video that we did together at the guitar at the Gear University at Toman. He talks about having an idea. If you don't have an idea, then don't bother. You need to have a great idea. And that's what he comes up with these great ideas. Like when we went to that Gearhead University, he was like, okay, I'm going to make a video about, if you guys haven't seen this, check it out. It's really great on his channel. He wanted to make a video about what's your favorite chord. And he asked every guitar player there what their favorite chord was. And then he said, okay, at the end of this, I'm going to write a song using all these chords. And he did it, and it's beautiful, and he plays it, and it's great. So he shows all the different guitar players playing their favorite chord. I'm sitting up by a lake there at home, and it's quite lovely. And then he writes this great track and records this great piece on the guitar that he bought there, which was this beautiful telly that I actually played in the video that we did together on pedal boards and stuff. But anyway, idea. He had a great idea, and then he just executed it really well. And if we look at that video, that's just something that he, let's see here. I want to see how many views that video has now, because here's something that he just made from scratch off the top of his head. And I remember the day that he was like, hey, I've got this idea. Yeah. So 232,000 views it's got in 5 days. That's pretty solid. Almost 500,000 views, and I remember him saying, hey, I've got this idea. I want to do this thing. And that's great. Really, really brilliant. Okay. What else do we got here? Looking for more questions. You guys are talking amongst yourselves. That's good. That's good. Any chance of doing more of your guitar shows with Tim Pierce? I was just thinking about that this morning. That's from Do Fuzz. You mentioned earlier that a signature rocket pedal would be a desert island pick for you. It is a good one. You're asking why? It's a great boost, as well as it's got a great kind of clean boosty kind of thing in it that just sort of fattens the tone, and then it's just a really nice sort of somewhere between a tube screamer and an amp style drive or something. I just like it. It's a good pedal that you could get a lot of sounds out of. I'd love to do more with Tim. I would. Um, we'll see. I'm not sure right now. Frank says the lighting looks good, not too bright. Yeah, I turned them down today. I've got them down almost as low as they'll go, and it seems to work well. Some people were saying that there's some comments saying that the live stream doesn't look that great. And it's like, it's just the internal cam in my iMac. That's why. And I tried using my little zoom cam, which looks way better, but I can't get it to stream. It's just not, it's more important that the stream doesn't collapse and stop. It worked one time when I tested it. And then the next time I tried to use it on a Sunday morning, it crapped out right before the stream started. And I was like, okay, forget it. It's just not consistent. I don't want to worry about it. It's more important to have this thing work consistently than have it look really amazing. Hollywood actress says, I'm not sure who you're talking about, but you say, I don't know how I found him so genuine and uses affordable gear, not expensive stuff, pedals. But you say, so you're talking amongst yourselves, but shows if you've got good ear and can play, you can find a tone in any price range. I totally believe that that's true. Yeah, if you've got it's my playing and a good ear and all that always trumps, gear for sure. Have you ever built your own guitar? Yes. When I was 16, I mean, I bought the neck. It was like a kit neck, but I bought the bridge and the pickup and had the body cut at a local wood shop. And it was kind of a Jackson dinky body shape, the sort of like the small 7/8 size Strat. And I had it painted at an auto body place. And then I built it, and it had an Ibanez tremolo on it. I remember that. And like one of those edge style tremolos. And it had a single Jackson humbucker in the bridge, and it had a hockey stick headstock. And I built it and I played it. It was built out of poplar. It was a decent guitar, actually. It turned out okay. I had help from like a local tech and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I assembled all the parts and stuff, put it all together and planned it all out and stuff. I've never cut a fingerboard and fretted a neck and all that. I have done I bought all the fret tools once, and I attempted to fret dress myself, and I hated it. So I bailed on that idea. But I have gone down that road a little bit. Okay. Tell us about your time. This is a question I've never had on here. Todd Smith, tell us about your time playing with Blinker the Star. Love that band. Yeah. If you guys have never heard Blinker the Star, Jordan from Blinker the Star is a really smart and musical dude that lives up in Pembroke, Ontario, I think still. And came down to LA for a while. He had a deal on DreamWorks Records in the early 2000s. And Blink of the Star came out. There was an album called August Everywhere. It came out right at the time when like Korn and Limp Bizkit was blowing up. But for a while, the single was getting played on KROQ here in LA, and people were saying these guys are going to be the next Radiohead or something. Like there was a lot of buzz about the band, and because it was produced by Ken Andrews, the record. So Ken from Failure, and it was that record August Everywhere was a really cool record. I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of had, he was into everything from the Beach Boys to My Bloody Valentine, and rock music too, like hard rock music. He had all this really wide sort of, his musical palette was huge. So it was done. The drummer from Failure, Kelly Scott, he was the drummer in the band, and Jordan played guitar and sang, and a guy named Pete Frolander played bass. And then they hired two folks. I was one of those folks to play guitar on the road as well as keys. That was my buddy Paul Trudeau, who now plays with Billy Idol. But anyway, so it was a 5-piece when we were touring, and we did about, I don't know, maybe 8 months or something like that of touring all through the States and Canada. Crazy times. I remember that was like touring in a van with a trailer most of the time and driving all over the US and Canada. And we were, we'd one week we were opening for the B-52s or something, and the next week we'd be on some weird festival. Uh, or playing clubs, dingy clubs, sometimes to nobody, sometimes to a fair amount of people. But it was like the beginning of my touring days, really. I'd done a couple tours before that, but it was, early days for all that stuff. And it's a really great record, that August Everywhere record. It's like I say, there's elements of Brian Wilson, and kind of it's an indie rock kind of, real solid record that sort of reflects the times, I think. Anyway, like I say, Linkin Park, or not Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit and Korn, kind of rap new metal was getting really big right then. And it just kind of, the sound of what we were doing was not the thing all of a sudden. And it I don't know, just didn't really last after that. But he put out another great record, Jordan did, under the Blink of the Star moniker, called Still in Rome, that is really cool. And I think even more of kind of like August Everywhere was a little more ethereal and space rock kind of, and Still in Rome is more of like a straight up rock and roll. Still has elements of, the pop thing going on, but there's a lot of cool, like, fuzzed out riffs and just kind of driving element to that record. Um, like driving rock and roll kind of element that I love. He did it a lot with my other friend John Fields, who I think he mixed it with him. He's a great record producer and mixer guy. And Lindsey Buckingham actually produced one tune that's really called "What Am I Waiting For?" I think, something like that. Listen to that tune; it's really, really cool, and it's got a very distinctive Lindsey Buckingham kind of sonic stamp on it. So the two records are August Everywhere and Still in Rome. Listen to those. He's got a new record out now. Jordan does, under the Blinker the Star name, I think. He is Blinker the Star. He's the creative. He's the voice, and he plays a lot of the instruments and stuff. And he's a little like it's a little like Tame Impala or something, where it's really one guy and then he gets other people to play with him. Yeah, that's it. We had a lot of fun. I remember. Okay, let's see here. Born Survivor says, I'm not sure if that's a question or not. Sorry. Gary Walker says, remember to subscribe to Pete's channel, everyone, if you're new here. Yes, please do. Please subscribe. Loads of awesome demos. Thanks, man. And other gear-related things. I appreciate that. I do. Wanting to replace my DS1, says Steve, leaning towards the Abasi Pathos. What would Pete use for a traditional gain stage? That Abasi pedal is really nice. There's so many great distortion pedals. I mean, it just depends what you want, Are you running it in front of a clean amp or a semi-overdriven amp? It depends, I like the Abasi pedal, though. I did a demo of it, and I thought it was a real cool sounding pedal. Probably be a good choice, I would think. There's so much out there, man. It's like, it's hard to, for me, my kind of distortion meets overdrive is the Bogner Blue right now on my board. But it's people think of it as an overdrive, but it's really an ampy low gain distortion in my mind. It sounds like an amp to me more, than like a tube screamer. It doesn't sound anything like a tube screamer. It sounds more like ampy low gain drive. Like, think like JCM 800 with the gain on like 4 or 5, or where it's just starting to AC/DC up a little bit, It has that tone to it. So it depends what you want. Pete, what do you think of a dual pot for the HSS configuration? So the Hum C's 500K and the single C250K. With Hum single, there's a way to do the wiring so that the when you're on the humbucker, it's 500K and it's 250 on the singles. It's something to do with the I don't know what it is, but Sir, I think, could provide you with a wiring diagram probably, or it's out there on the internet, I'm sure. Like, if you just do a little search do a little Googling, and without too much effort, you'll come up with the answer to that one, because all their guitars are like that. Okay. Let's see. If you want to take a guitar lesson from who, including dead guitar player, I'll pick a live one. I'll pick Mike Landau, but I know he'll never give me a lesson. I would love to sit down with him and pick his brain for a while. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen someday. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's see. Did Aspen Pittman pass away? You guys are talking about that. I don't want to say that if it's not. Uh, I didn't know that. Wow, I had no idea. Is that really a thing? Kim Kim 4 RIY. I certainly don't want to be the one that brings that up if it's not true. But I mean, I'm sure if you're saying it, it probably is. Just gonna look. He did. He passed away. How about that? I had no idea. Hmm. Well, geez. Hmm. I don't know what to say. I guess he had a car accident. Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry to hear that. I've had a couple good chats with him over the years and in recent times at you see, the last time I talked to him, it probably would have been at Warren Hewitt's birthday party, and we had a good talk. I remember, and he was always working on something new. He had a speaker system, a full range system of some sort that he was kind of saying I should come by and play with like the modelers and stuff. He was making it for. He thought it sounded really great, and he was talking to me about that. That's too bad, man. Wow. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Hmm. I had no idea. This is the first I heard of it in you know, you guys talking about it. Hmm. Too bad. Well, I'll try and move on. I'm a little affected by that. I feel, it's always strange when he's been in the industry for so long. He's heard his name ever since I started playing guitar, really. Renaissance Man says, you are 100% correct. Getting timing and groove is the most challenging and not taught well by most guitar teachers. You have to learn by jamming with others. Yeah, there's no substitute for definitely playing with drummers and putting in some time. Somebody asked me the other day a question about when should I get in a band, uh, and I said I got in a band when I was could barely play, and it was true. I mean, 6 months after I started playing, I started jamming with friends, and I remember my first band. We couldn't really play that well, none of us, but we picked a few tunes. Should I Stay or Should I Go by The Clash? We used to play that, I remember, and I can't remember what others, but we picked a few covers and started writing songs together too, like jamming riffs and stuff. But I remember playing that Clash song, and for some reason, we can only get halfway through it all the time. I remember going to band practice every week and playing half of that Clash song over and over and over again. But we did play together and jam. And I remember doing my first gig with them, those guys, at my music teacher's recital. He had a recital where all the students and parents would come and they'd play things, and it was a Christmas time kind of recital. And I remember playing, 3 or 4 songs at the recital and it being really fun. I remember doing that with my little Trainer 10-watt amp and my Boss Super Overdrive pedal and, waking up the parents, that's for sure. But anyway, Jason Hobbs is up in the top chat and he says, "Hey Pete, I'm using a Sir Hedgehog 50 head and matching cabinet with my band. I own an aux amp top box. Would you recommend using the aux live for front of house or just keep using a mic Hedgehog cab?" Um, if you're happy with the tone of the Hedgehog cab, I don't know that in your particular situation, if you can play the Hedgehog and it sounds good and you're just putting a mic on it and it works good, I don't really know that bringing the aux, like bringing one more piece of gear, is necessary for your setup, unless you're having volume issues or people complaining that you need to, that kind of thing. Or if you're not happy with the mic sound in the PA, if it just never sounds consistent, or, there's nothing wrong with trying it. Like dial it in your studio or in your rehearsal space or something and listen to it and see if it sounds good. And if it sounds better than the mic would be the only thing I can say. Um, I would probably, I'd probably try it, see what's the best sound you can get with the aux. The aux can sound really great. I mean, it sounds really good. I just don't know if it's in your particular setup. Uh, I okay, like I did use the 2 Notes Torpedo Live on tour with a real cab, and the cab was just for my onstage monitor, and I would listen to that, and then going to the PA were IRs. So I've done it, yes. Uh, but it is more stuff to bring, and I had techs, when I was doing it. So, the torpedo lives were mounted in a rack and all that. I wasn't setting it up every day and stuff. So it's just one more thing for you to bring and set up is my point. If you're already getting good results, it might, you know, but you might want to use a little bit of, like, I don't know, maybe you want to put a little bit of the plate reverb or something on the sound in the PA or something, or a little bit of whatever tweaks you can. Maybe it's your perfect sound. It will be very consistent. It'll be whatever you dial in with the aux every time. Um, will be consistent. And I guess on stage, you could use the attenuator if, I don't generally tend to use the attenuator in the aux, but you could, if you had to, dial back your amp a little bit using the attenuator in the aux, you could do that. So there might be some advantages. It might be worth trying. So how come rhythm guitar players don't get credit when they are super important, says Renaissance Man? I think at least with a little bit of the Nile Rodgers kind of renaissance the last 10 years or so with Daft Punk and stuff like that. Um, you know, uh, Up All Night to Get Lucky and all that, like the super funky kind of stuff coming into and being super mainstream all of a sudden for a while there. Um, Rhythm guitar got a bit, say at least funky rhythm guitar got a bit more of its due, because that became really a great sound. I think that, yeah, I mean, you're right in a way. It's like, I don't know, because of the flash, the sports aspect of it with lead guitar is what blows people away and keeps people, mesmerized or whatever. But rhythm guitar in a band is is still the thing. And it's just, I guess it's just not as, immediately flashy and sexy. It's like dangling a flashy object. But anyway. Chris Cam says even Andy Wood said he'd much rather write a great riff than play fast. Yeah, I mean, a great riff, something you can settle in on, and fast is, and Andy's an incredible technician. Fast is one thing, but the thing that's always going to stick around and resonate is music. So um, the red guitar is beautiful, says T-Mitz. Thank you. Let me get it for a minute, just for fun, since we're here to talk guitar. There it is. I love this thing. It plays great. As with, now I feel like I'm neglecting the blue one because it's in the other room. But as with the blue one, when I got it, I haven't been able to stop playing it. And the blue one's been my main guitar for ever since I got it. So, let's see here. Rick says, I do work with a lot of people on the East Coast. Philadelphia and New York City is off the chain right now. Musicians and bands wanted. Is that like, so there's a lot of live music happening? Is that what you're saying? Which would be great to hear. Man, I go out and I see bands sometimes. I saw a band this week just in Old Town Pasadena. There was a band playing at a place. They were killing on like a Thursday night, Guy sounded great singing. It was a guitar, bass, drums thing, and the guitar player and the bass player and the drummer looked like music students from a music school, really young guys. And then the singer had kind of long hair, and he was real soulful singing, and he had a PRS that was kind of behind his back, and he wasn't playing it. But I was like, I bet this guy's going to bust out a solo in a minute. But I was meeting someone for dinner, so I had to leave. So I left and went down the street, and I could hear them playing. And then sure enough, at the end of the tune, I could hear him start to, and he was obviously like really good. Some great music out there these days. Yeah. Okay. A lot of guitar players, especially younger players, aren't aware of the power of holding down a solid rhythm. Yeah, it'll always be the thing though, right? Like once you go out and play in a band, you gotta do it and you discover real quick. Uh, yeah. You should contract the band in a box folks to do a demo. Yours would be way better than theirs. They typically do too much jazz and lounge lizard music in their demos. Have I not done that? What did I? Oh, I did the Beat Buddy pedal. That's what I did, not band in a box. Different little drum box. Uh, Play with other people. All of a sudden, you're on a stage with a drummer and an audience. Everything changes. Yeah, that's true. I remember my music teacher getting me in to sit in, which was really Brian Hughes, who's a terrific guitar player. But he used to play in a cover band in Edmonton, and he would get me to come down and sit in when I was like 14. And so all of a sudden, I was on stage with these dudes that were probably, I don't know, mid 20s to early 30s at the time or something like that, and sitting in with them. And I learned a lot of stuff, like as a little kid getting on stage at 14, be like, oh, that's what music sounds like up here. It's different, you know. What's my favorite Telecaster? My favorite Telecaster. Well, I've got one. It's back there. You can see it right there. So my favorite's mine. But beyond that, I played a lot of great ones over the years, just friends that have had them and stuff. My friend Seiki in Japan, Mr. Seiki-chan, he lent me his old 50s Tele, which looks like something Bruce Springsteen would play with no finish on the body, and it's had been fairly heavily modified, but what a neck on that guitar. And he used to lend me that guitar. That was fun to play in Japan. I'm over there on tour. It just has that classic kind of 50s V thing going on the neck, and sounded really good. Have I heard Tool's new song? No, Adam's Diesel amps sound incredible. Have you tried Diesel amps? I have never played a Diesel amp, I don't think. I do want to hear the Tool song, though. I just haven't had a minute to check it out. I'm excited to listen for sure. I like Tool. Okay. Mike says, life is short. Let's try to be happy and enjoy each other. That is true, man. Life is short. Henrik is up in the top chat again. He says, do you feel any difference between the blue and the red signature guitars? Honestly, man, they're so close. They make them like every single signature model of mine that I've played feels exactly the same. I'm not even kidding. I tell the story sometimes, but when I remember going to do my clinics up in Canada, and I went to Calgary, and they, most of the stores will generally have one or two in stock when I get there to have for the clinic in case anybody wants one. And so they were sitting on the stage, and I picked up the guitar, and I was going over at sound check. I was just going over things and sound checking things. And I looked down and I realized I was holding a black one. It wasn't my guitar that I'd brought to the clinic. It was, one of theirs, and I'd been playing it for like 10 minutes, and I didn't know that it wasn't my guitar. It just felt exactly the same. So no, they're really consistent. I mean, weight, tone, setup, everything. Sure is great that way as far as consistency goes. They don't screw around with that stuff. Yeah. Spread those positive vibes and good karma, says Ben. I agree. Too much negativity in the world. Let's spread some positivity. I'm using the greenback cab in the aux, says Jason. Yeah, those are some of my favorites. The two greenback cabs. The thick one and the punch one both sound equally good for different things for me. Chris says, what do you feel is left to accomplish career-wise? Anything that hasn't been checked off? It's a good question. I just think that you have to keep moving forward and keep, like I say, it's like writing a new song every week. I don't really think about it like, I try and think about it somewhat big picture, because it's like, well, where am I going to be in 10 years? Because I have to think about that, because we all do, because we're all getting older, and you have to kind of plan for that. But like when it comes to like, oh, I need to do this, I haven't done this yet, I don't really have a hell of a lot of that. Like, I feel like, touring with people, putting out more music, putting out another album, I guess doing a tour of my own, which is, this clinic tour that I've got coming up is the closest thing to that I will have done. And although it's not a tour of my own, it might set the stage for something like that down the road, like in a year or two, where I might get used to doing stuff like this on my own, the traveling and the like maybe the next thing to do after doing a full 11 or 12 date Europe clinic tour is go, well, the next time I come back here, I should be playing gigs, you know? Uh, so that, I guess it's just moving more in the direction of doing my own things. I feel the most, I love playing with people and I love, going out on the road and touring and getting to play like big arenas and stuff like that. It's awesome. And I don't want to stop doing that. I want to keep doing that stuff. But moving in my own direction more is the smartest thing I think for any of us as we get older. Like a little bit more independence and being able to do your own thing when you want to do it, as opposed to relying on. Because I'll tell you, like even the touring thing for me, like I'm known as a rock guitar player mainly. And I've sensed that the gigs now, for instance, like in a city like LA, most of the gigs in LA now are all younger pop-based things, right? Um, so there's not as much of the, the rock artists and the types of gigs that I was doing even around now, you know? It's just a different thing. So it's like moving more in my direction and doing my own thing, be it putting out music or working on the video demos I do, or doing clinic tours or things like that, or whether I make my own band or different things. It feels like a smarter career choice than trying to vie for touring gigs all the time that are like, actually it's like younger artists, more pop based artists, and maybe a style that I don't do as much, right? The pop thing. And do I even want to go there? Like, that's the other thing. It's like maybe like, yeah, well, I could check out one of these gigs, and you go down and check it out and go, I don't really know how I would lend that much to this. I was talking to my friend Lance Morrison about it, and he was saying how 10 years ago, 12 years ago, he's a bass player. He was saying he could see himself doing different gigs, and be like, I could see how I would fit in this band. I could see how I would lend something to it, and it would be interesting to me, and I would be interesting to them. That kind of thing. Maybe the older I get with the music that's out now and stuff, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I'm not a kid, and it's like you see some of the music that 18-year-old, 20, 25-year-olds are coming up with. It's like I don't see how I would fit into that picture and the way that I used to with gigs when a generation under me or something. It's like, does that make sense? I don't know. So just moving more in my own direction. That's enough about that. Sorry, I'm going on and on. Blah blah blah. Rich Monks is in the top chat, and I just missed his. But I'm looking here. He says EVH Restraint gets overlooked. First song, first album, and he plays the easiest solo he will ever play for the rest of his life, and it was perfect. Agreed. Yep. The guy knows how to be, musically appropriate. I'll tell you a little story about him. He played me a song. I was at 5150 sitting there with him one time. This is going back 10 years ago when I first met him, but he played me a song that he was working on that was like a demo, but it sounded like a finished song. It just didn't have vocals on it. It had background vocals on it, and it was awesome. This was like before they put out the record in 2012 or whenever it came out, and it wasn't anything to do with that record. It was a different thing, but he played me this track, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. And he got to the solo, and on the solo, he started on one note. It was a little bit like the beginning of the solo in When It's Love. Anybody remember that? It was like one note that he kind of dragged out, and it was a little bit like that. So anyway, he gets the solo. He goes, check this out, and he aped it as the music was playing. He pretended he was playing. And he goes like, he hit it, and then he's like milking it, and it was one note, and it went on for like 4 bars, and he was like going like this to me, and I was like, oh man, I don't know, it feels like a dream now when I think about that stuff, watching him do that. But anyway, and it was so cool and so appropriate, and I was like, oh man, he's so great. I don't know, he's the guy that spawned the Flash for sure, but nobody could do it like him, and with the taste, and then the fact that he knows how to turn that off and do that album was kind of cool in a way, that the OU812. I haven't gone back and listened to it, but that was the album that When It's Love was on, right? And it also had Finish What You Started, which was him playing the Strat DI completely clean, zero overdrive, right? Which was neat to hear. I don't know. Always trying different things, you know. Let's see here. Dances reluctantly, says he's got to go get an iced black coffee. Later, Pete. Sorry about your friend. In the words of an old man that helps to fix things and break down around my house, life sucks. Maybe you're talking about Aspen. I didn't really know him that well. I only met him a handful of times, but he was very nice every time I met him. And you know, we got to give him credit for you know, although I know he tried to make tubes in the USA and didn't really succeed doing that on any kind of commercial level. I think he at least really appreciated tube technology, and he tried to do it more than probably most have. And you know, building 6L6s and 6CA7s in the States and stuff, and then it just didn't fly. But anyways, I always supported that and hoped that it would work. Let's see here. Time's it. It's about 1. I'm going to go another 15 minutes or so, and then I'm going to jet. I got a barbecue to go to today, folks. Let's see. I saw an all-day music festival, and almost every band needed a Pete Thorn. Says, like something or other bought. Thank you. Yeah, you know, it's just like about like how you, I don't know, just as I get older, it's like doing my own thing. You know, you don't need, like, look at all you guys here right now, you know. It's like we don't need the rest of the world to have our own thing, you know. It's like, and so like playing in the biggest pop band or whatever, getting the next gig to go on tour with something that I don't necessarily, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily something that I need to do or want. I could just do my own thing more. I don't know. Back when I put out Guitar Nerd, it was a real revelation for me. That was like, oh, I have like a solo thing that I can do independent of these gigs that I've spent a lot of time doing. And you know, I love touring stuff. I do. At the end of the day, though, you're out there and somebody else's name is on that marquee, and you're out there. They're paying you, and sometimes handsomely, sometimes not handsomely, but sometimes handsomely, to sort of own you 24/7 because you're on tour, so you're not going home and getting other work done, right? And you're out there sort of helping them further their thing. That's the job. You know, the job is to play in their band and help them and stuff, and that's okay. You know, it is what it is. But you know, at the end of the day, when they stop touring for a year or 2 years, or maybe they retire or they decide to fire you or whatever happens, now you're sort of back to square one. You've got the name on your resume, but do you know what I mean? It's like you haven't, beyond having the name on your resume and some Instagram posts or something, I guess these days, you know, that's it. That's what you've got out of it. And then you need to move on and find the next thing. And so furthering your own thing is always a good, you know, be that your own music or whatever. My guitar teacher, Nick Nolan, says David, who was also my guitar teacher at MI, encouraged me to play with others. But in Michigan, if you were under 18, you couldn't get into a club after 8 p.m. before bands started playing. You know, when I was a kid, I was underage, and I was in the clubs when I was 14. I wasn't supposed to be in there either. They just were really lax about IDing people. And I was as tall as I am now when I was 14, and they didn't, they never carded me. It's weird. Once I turned 18, they started carding me. Like, you know, I was getting ID'd more. It was like they started cracking down. But for some reason there, for a few years in the late 80s, around 86, 87, 88, 89, I was not getting ID'd at all going in clubs. And I would go in and jam and sit in and, you know, occasionally probably get into trouble. She was awful young to be hanging out in bars, but whatever. Oh yeah, okay. Looking through the just now. Do you have a favorite 80s guitar that's still killer today. Did you have a favorite 80s guitar that's still killer today? Well, my Jackson, still a great guitar. It was basically like a Charvel, but they started putting Jackson on the headstocks of the American-made ones, and Charvel became the overseas brand right about the time I got mine. So it was a bolt-on neck, wasn't a through body. Used to be in the early 80s when everything was American-made from Charvel and Jackson. The Charvels were the ones with the bolt-on necks, and Jacksons were the through bodies, like the Randy Rhoads model or the Soloist. Sometime in the mid 80s, around 86 or so, when they shifted and started producing the model series, Model 1, Model 2, Model 3, all those guitars over in Japan with the Charvel name on them. Charvel became the name for the overseas brand, and Jackson became all the US stuff. And so that's how that worked. And I had the Jackson from that era, but it was like a Charvel basically to me because it was a bolt-on. So blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's a great guitar that I still have. Just got the HX Effects Pete advice, says Jeff Sweet. Not really. I mean, I use my 4-cable method. If I was you, I'd use an isolation transformer on send if you're using a 4-cable. The send going to the front end of the amplifier. You're going to need to isolate that, and then you won't have a ground loop. And beyond that, just hook up some, get some delay going in the loopy ramp and try the Minotaur in front. It's the Klon style drive. I love that in front. Works really good. Have fun. Takes a minute to get it configured with your, check the levels. Like you can, in the settings pages, you can set the levels of the loop and the levels of the output and stuff. Make sure it works. On my amp, setting it at, I think everything was at pedal level, just at instrument level, I think worked well. Pretty sure. And then keeping the masters on the PT like that, down kind of in the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock range so that I'm not driving the sends too hard. That seemed to work well. I might experiment with that actually, because the loop in the PT is relatively hot. It's not like super hot, but it's somewhere between instrument and line level. We tried to find a nice kind of middle ground for it. And then the channel sends, the masters on each channel, those are your sends. And then the overall master volume, that's your return for the effects. So anyway, I'm actually maybe gonna hook that up right after we get off here before I go to this barbecue I gotta go to, because I have to develop a track this week for my clinics. So the upcoming clinics, I'm gonna have a new song that I'm gonna be tracking, and I want to get the HX set up and ready to go with my amp so that I can do that this week and have something by Friday that I'll be playing in the clinics. Am I the only one that thinks that Pete would be an amazing producer? Thanks, Chris. I mean, I do that sometimes. I love doing it. I love production. Has anybody listened to Holly's record? It's out now. I did Holly Henderson's record. So it's called Monday Green. Go check it out on iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. Yeah, she's a great artist, songwriter. That's the last thing I produced. Sean Tubbs is here. Hey, Sean, what's up? How are you, dude? Nice to see you here in the chat. Stellar guitar player. I need lessons from him. Let's see. If I was to sit down and practice something on an acoustic today, what would you be working on? I don't know. Maybe I like playing Clap by Steve Howe. That was the first thing that came to mind. Or maybe I'd learn... actually, the other thing that just popped in my head was, what's that Eric Johnson song off of Via Musicom? Song for, what's his name? What's the name of the song? You guys know what I mean. I've always wanted to learn that. That just popped in my head when you asked me that. I don't know. I would probably learn that. Phil says, chat with you on Sunday, Beato on Saturday. Been watching you do demos for quite a while and learned that if Pete Thorn says it's good, it's good. That's Phil in the top chat. Thank you, man. Thanks for doing the top chat. I appreciate you saying. Hey, I try and steer you in the direction of goodness, of tonal goodness. I do my best. Reverb Tank says, Kemper question. Do I find it misses the mark on replicating power tube distortion? Think of an old Marshall crank that swirls and phases under your fingers. I know what you mean. Can it do this? I don't know. I'd have to. That particular question, I don't feel like I can go, yes, it'll do that, or no, it won't do that without actually trying it. Although I've got SL68 on 10 profiles in there and stuff. I'm sitting here looking at it. It's staring at me right now, the Kemper, saying, turn me on. I'll show you with my digital brain what I can do. It does an admirable job. I will say that from what I remember. I went through a period where I made a whole bunch of profiles of my stuff. Maybe I should do that again, like a new run of profiles with it, and just have. I like using my own, to be honest. There's some great ones out there, but I love just using my own because I did it and I know what it sounds like and how close or isn't close it is, and I like the ones I made, honestly. I did some with my Comet and this SL68, a modded Marshall, the PT100, the Badger. What else did I use? Maybe the Jim Kelly, I think. I made a whole bunch of profiles. This is going back like 5-6 years ago. And those are still the ones that I like. I don't know. Might be time for a revisit of that stuff. What else we got here? Drop D on low and high. Song for George. That's it. Song for George from Eric Johnson. I'd like to learn how to play that someday. That's a cool tune. You're going to use your HX effects. You don't talk about HX effects much, says Bill. All in caps. I am going to use my HX effects, I think, on this clinic run because it pairs so beautifully with the PT15 and it's tiny. And I'm going to be carrying one. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do with the HX effects and the PT15 is I got to go to Europe to do a TV show. I'm going to the UK to play on a morning TV show, I think. And I can't announce it because I don't know exactly what it is yet. And it hasn't happened yet. But I'm doing something over there in a little bit. And so I'm going to take my 15 and the HX effects over there and do that with it. So that'll be the first thing. But this week I'm going to develop this tune with the HX effects and the PT15, and that'll be the clinic song that I do in Austin, in Colorado, and Council Bluffs, Iowa, as well as the upcoming stuff that I got coming in Europe soon, which I'll get you dates for that soon. But yeah, because they pair so beautifully together. And I want to actually get used to using them together because it makes for a really nice small rig. I just want to add a expression pedal. So I've got the HX effects, maybe one expression pedal, and see what I can do with that tiny rig. Because, man, if I can get away with using that, I can fit all that. I got this great little road case that fits the PT15. I originally had it made for a Badger and a pedal board, small pedal board, many, many years ago. And if I can... I can just use that. It's this killer little case. It's got like I can just show it to you. It's in the other room. It's too much pain in the ass. But it's this case I've got. It's got a retractable handle on it that pulls out, and the top flips up. Cables go in one side. You want to see it? I'm gonna show it to you. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna get it. Somebody's up in the. Sasha Boo Boo is up in the top chat, and he says, I added strings to your Always On demo, the slow part. It's an amazing song. Thanks for inspiration. That's cool. I want to hear it. I didn't know the name of the song, so I called it Always On. That's great, dude. I do want to hear it. Okay, I want to show you this case. So I'm going to see if it's easily accessible here. One sec. found it. Okay, here it is. So it looks like this. And it's got this retractable handle on it, right, that pulls way out. And then it's got rollers on it. So, the inside. It has this. There, my chair. It has this in the lid. So you can put cables and stuff in here, in the top of the lid. And down here, I got my loom in it right now. But it looks like that. So that where the big part there is where the PT15 goes. And then the top slot is where you can put pedals and stuff. It fits a little pedal board in there. But I'm just going to stuff the HX effects in there, as well as maybe one expression pedal, and then whatever cables and everything. And then this one little case, that's all you need. I can roll it, and it's cool. So, pretty great little road case. I've had it for a long, long time. And I think with that, I can conquer the world. Oh, there's a bunch of people up in the top chat. Who's up here? Sasha Boo Boo, I want to hear your version of the tune. Daniel's in the top chat, and he says, Pete, many of us who love guitar, but showbiz just isn't in our cards, and you inspire in other ways. Authenticity, your own path, etc. Your So You Want a series helped me through starting my own business. Wow, dude, that's amazing. And I really appreciate you saying that. And it means a lot for me to hear that. Like, just from, I don't know. Once again, you come up with these ideas for YouTube things, and then you do them, and you hope that they help somebody and that it seems interesting to some people. And so that means a lot. I really appreciate you saying that and letting me know. And I wonder what the business is, so we can patronize it and go there and support you. Hopefully you sell ice cream. I'll be there later today. No, I don't know. I want to know what you do, honestly. Peter Evans is in the top chat, and he says, a fine Sunday with you as always. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Great that you're here, and thank you for doing the top chat. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all you guys being here. It's about 1:16. I'm going to hang for like 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to split. But let's see. Plus, it has wheels. Yeah, exactly. That case is great with the wheels. Jennifer says that I love when he walks around. I don't know why. Let's see here. Somebody else up there in the top chat. Who's that? That's Christopher. Hey, man. How's it going? He says, loving the PT15, and I've owned it for a week now. I have preferred using mics in the past, but the IRs sound great on the amp and are very convincing. Which IR on the amp for clean? One thing I want to talk to them about is actually programming it, because I realize the ones they're shipping from the factory are all, it's just wide open. They don't program the IRs for the channels. And thanks for reminding me, because I was going to suggest that they program a couple. The ones that I intended to be for which you can do in 2 seconds on it yourself, but the ones I intended to be for clean were the main one in mine defaults to is Bank 4 Impulse Response 1, which is an open back Badger cab with a V-type speaker. It just sounds really good to me for clean stuff. And between Bank 4 number 1 and Bank 4 number 2, which is a blend that I made, and it's a little bit warmer, a little bit smoother on the top end. Those are both excellent for the clean channel, I think. So I would pick one of those as a place to start. And I'm glad you're enjoying the amp, and I hope it brings you lots of good times and riffing, and that it's a good tool for you for a long time to come. Right. Never hear anyone talk about the Boss Space Echo RE201, says Frank. Let's talk about it for a minute. I love the Space Echo, and I love the preamp in it. The sound of it in front of amps is terrific. Big favorite, of course, of Brian Setzer. He's used it as part of his rig forever. He's always got the Space Echoes sitting up there on top of his early 60s. I think he uses blonde Fender. I'm not sure if the Bandmasters or blonde Bassmans. Can't remember. But those amps, which are kind of gainy and have a very specific kind of sound to them, that's really cool, rock and roll, and coupled with the Space Echo is a killer sound. And I always love the Space Echo. Was actually, I played it before I ever played an Echoplex. I had Space Echoes that I was playing through in the 80s because I had access to a couple of them, and that was my first kind of foray into like, oh, one of these things just running into it makes your amp sound better, like whatever it's doing, boosting a little bit, buffering the preamp in it, hitting the front end of the amp, sounded really great. And they got that weird reverb in them too that's cool, and just kind of has its own thing. Love Space Echoes. Would love to have a real one, actually. Yeah. Let's see here. Mark says, ice cream. I'm making peach ice cream today with the first harvest of the summer from my backyard tree. Dude, that sounds good. Fresh peach ice cream, homemade peach ice cream. I like ice cream. I do. Too much. Got to be careful because I eat it too late and then I'll become bigger. Actually, I stick with these days. I'm kind of a pinkberry addict. I like frozen yogurt or gelato. Yeah. Okay. Couple more things and I'm gonna split, guys. I've always wondered about the closing tracks on Guitar Nerd. If you can tell us the story behind those two epic sounding tracks, says Alan. Are you talking about, I think the second, I got to look at the track listing on Guitar Nerd because I can't remember. Isn't the second to last track Promise? Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's, somebody tell me. I'll tell you about the last one anyway. The last song was a song that had lyrics at one point, and it was called Big Mistake. And it was about a friendship kind of gone awry and misunderstanding, really. And so the song is supposed to be kind of somber. The riff itself, the chords to the song, the E minor 9 kind of, pattern that happens at the beginning with the C. What kind of chord is that anyway? Just sort of a minor 13 or something with the C. I don't know what it is actually, but I'm gonna just get the damn guitar and play the song. How about that idea? Okay. No, I'm in the wrong tuning. Oh boy, I'm so in the wrong. Okay. So, what's the chord? Oh my God, I forget it. All right, that's what it is. Okay, so that's in E minor 11. So this part I wrote when I was like about 19 or something. Then it goes. So that had the melody was down, that part that I did on the guitar. It was lyrics originally. It was like something about like, and here lies a decision born from ambition or something. I can't remember exactly what the lyrics were. And then let a mistake, in this part. Like that. And I don't remember the lyrics, but anyway, the song was all about a friendship gone awry. And so then I thought, well, I'm never going to do anything with this song with the vocals. So what I'll do is make an instrumental out of it. I'll write a whole middle section that kind of expands on it and goes somewhere else. And then at the end, I want it to sound like rage meets like anger meets sadness, and just kind of close out on that. So it's supposed to be somber and then get somewhat lighter in the middle, not for any particular reason other than to just go somewhere else mood-wise for a minute. But then the solo at the end, I wanted to break it down and I wanted to rip this solo that sounded like, I don't know, sometimes like getting your emotions out through a song or through the instrument is better than taking them out in person and screaming at somebody or something like that. So that was really my intention with the sound of it and how it falls apart at the end. Blair did it. Blair Cinta played drums on it, and I told him to just overplay and play on the toms, and then go crazy at the end, and then just like go out of time and fall out, and then just drop the sticks, and just walk away from the drums. And that was supposed to be the kind of how shit just falls apart sometimes. So that was what I was going for with that. And it's actually one of the songs, probably the song I'm proudest of on that record. And likewise with Pete Thorn too, the last song, which is Remember, I'm proudest of as well. I think the way the record's closed. So anyway, thanks for that question. Nice question. I appreciate it. You guys, all you great people in the top chat, I appreciate all you guys doing that. I think I missed somebody. I hope not. I hope not. I hope I didn't miss anybody up there. But anyways, you guys, I'm going to split. It's about 1:26. I'm going to get going. And Sean says, you and your dang fancy chords. What chord is this, Sean? I guess it just makes it with the A. It makes, it's like a dominant 6 of some, or 13, right? And then it goes to with the major 7 in there. So anyway, yeah. Guitar Nerd was nice for me because I put a couple songs on there that I'd written when I was a kid, and it allowed me to get that out of like, oh, here, I'll use these old things that I've never done anything with that I felt like were cool 20 years ago. I'll put them on there, and then there became something. Go away now. Leave me alone. Stop tormenting me for the last 20 years. Anyway, you guys, Sean, I'm sorry I didn't get to see anything that you said in here. I wish that I'd paid more attention. We got to hang sometime, dude. I wanted to make it out to Summer NAMM this year, but I just didn't get out there. But I know you're saying, I know you got to go, but what are your thoughts on electron flow within a glass vacuum? All right, I'm glad I didn't see that question. I'm just kidding. I don't know about that. But tubes, I like tubes. Yeah. All right, you guys, have a great week. And Sean, thanks for dropping in. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to you guys doing the top chat. You're good folks. And have a great rest of the week. Next week when I'm here on Sunday, it'll be the last time before I head off for a week to go do clinics. I'm not going to disrupt my Sundays at all because I'll be back from the clinics before the one after that. But anyways, this time next week, I'll be looking forward to leaving on that following Monday to go to Council Bluffs, Iowa for the first small rig, huge tones clinic. And see some of you out there. All right, guys, have a great rest of your Sunday, and y'all take care. See ya.